We're going to look at some of the players in Syrian talks and see what their body language is telling us. This is the most recent talks, where they pretty much just sat down and, oh, we're in the same city together, we'll sit down together. And notice Kerry here, the U.S. Secretary, and Lavrov here. And this is well, I don't know his name, we just know he's from Saudi Arabia. Anyway, we're going to look at these three in particular because they seem to be shot callers. I want you to see his elbows. He looks constrained, but at the same time, he is taking his space. And you'll see it in his movements, that he is claiming his space. Remember in the debates, we were talking about space and how humans will claim their space. And he is claiming his space. This gentleman, even though he's leaning forward like in a ball position, he is still claiming his space. But he is leaning forward. His head's kind of down. And he's trying to make himself smaller. Kerry is sitting straight up, elbows in. But when you watch him move, you will find that he's not taking anyone's space, and he is giving ground to everyone around him. Which, if Saudi Arabia is so close ties with the USA, why is he giving ground to Saudi Arabia? And why is he giving ground to Lavrov if things are going so peachy? But again, why are we giving ground to Saudi Arabia? And why is Saudi Arabia not comfortable leaning in towards the USA? See this gentleman right here? He's macking it out. He's taking up space. Like, yeah, I own this place. It is just a comfortable stance, just for comparison on these three gentlemen right here. Even the people in the back are extremely comfortable, but these three sitting next to each other, Lavrov is very confident in himself and taking space. He is trying to take no space and giving ground, and this one is trying to make himself smaller, but still claiming his space. Watch their interactions. We'll do it normal speed and then we'll slow it down.
And Turkey present as well. Before the meeting, Sergei Lavrov said he'd hoped that these talks would be more constructive than what happened at the UN Security Council meeting just a few weeks ago, which was essentially a to and fro of rhetoric and mudslinging. And it seems those hopes were justified.
All right. They're repeating a clip. So let's slow this down and go back.
And Turkey present as well. Before the meeting, Sergei Lavrov said he'd hoped that these talks would be more constructive than what happened at the UN Security Council meeting just a few weeks ago, which was...
Look at these hand movements. He's barely moving his arms on either side. He is keeping his hands and arms tightly in.
Those hopes were
folded in front. This is a guarded position when you see hands like this. See how his elbows come over the chair? And when they zoom in, his elbows on resting on the armrest. I mean, there's a whole lot of armrest there. This is remember what we said about smiles, this is not a real smile. Obviously, none of them are actually real smiles. They're all stressed. But watch this hand movement as he's reaching for this paperwork. He keeps it tightly in. Very tightly in. Even to his ally on his left, he's keeping it tightly in. He was just asked if the deal failed because of the U.S. and the rebel forces who kept firing, and he's going to answer.
Series of events, certainly.
First, notice where he looks when he's talking. When you watch this man speak, He is always looking at you. So we always have to take notice in when he's not looking at you.
The attack by mistake on Syrian forces.
He won't look up. He looks down.
But then followed by the attack on
Shaking his head no.
The humanitarian convoy, and then subsequently by
Shook his head no on the humanitarian convoy. How interesting.
an increase in attacks on civilian targets in Aleppo. Look, we can talk all about the fact that some rebel groups or some opposition groups may have used the pause to resupply. That's a reality.
We could talk about the facts. So, no, those are the facts, and he's looking at her. Take notice. We're going to watch Carrie, and he is going to be dancing.
Together, the Syrian regime and Russia
Sway.
seem to have rejected diplomacy in furtherance of trying to pursue a military victory.
Dip sway.
Interesting. The secretary.
Look at that in slow motion, because that is important. So when you get to the point in life, you're just too old. You're too old to hide it anymore. Turn it down. Don't matter what he's saying.
The Syrian regime and Russia
Sway.
seem to have rejected
Whole body sway.
diplomacy in furtherance of
Down,
trying
shoulder
to
down.
pursue a military victory.
Sway.
Interesting.
Why is that important? John Kerry has arthritis. He's old and his body is stiff. And obviously he takes medicine. Most of the time when you see him, he's just standing there and he may move a little bit here and there, but he's moving a lot in this. He's moving a lot in this case. It's the equivalence of someone with TMJ or someone with arthritis in their hand, which most people can understand that. A pain of some kind somewhere manifesting in your body that is chronic will be the first thing to tell on you. When you are under stress for a deception, for anxiety, for fear, that pain will manifest first. Why? Because you're trying to control your body, you're tensing up those muscles, and of course they're going to give you away because it's going to be the first thing that has to be stretched out, moved, repositioned. And that is what's going on with him. Watching the interaction of John Kerry and the Saudi Arabia after the talks, I find it interesting. Watch this in slow motion.
Key concepts and a broad agreement was reached on, quote, desired outcome of ending the Syria conflict.
One more time, and I'll talk through it. Holds him in tight, kiss, kiss, bring you towards me, big hand pat. It's almost like what a grandfather does to a grandchild. A reassurance. It's besides the normal custom of saying goodbye, when you give it more exaggeration, when you give it, a bigger audience than it should, it's a comforting approach. Now watch as the Saudi Arabia leaves. He's looking down, now he's watching him leave. When you watch people leave like this, there's no happiness on the face. His body is leaning down. Obviously, this could the body leaning down just could be the stress of the whole situation at this point. And his body is breaking down. He needs to go take a break. But for him to sit there and watch and look back at this man, it almost is a sense of there's a sense of longing there, and not in some lover's quarrel, but more of a the separation between these two parties is giving stress. There's a longing there to continue, not necessarily with Lavrov and having more Syrian peace talks, but just literally between the two of these two to continue talks. If you like it, thanks for watching. If you like it, leave a like, and if you like the content, please subscribe. I'm going to be working on next is the relationship between all these world leaders. We're going to try and see if we can't find out who leads the pack.